My name is Robin Smith, and I'm part of the project team that's been working on the refurbishment of the building on Manchester Street known as the Boys Brigade headquarters.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the building?
The first building on the site was a chapel which was built by the Countess of Huntingdon. She formed a break-off part of the Church of England back in the 18th century. And this was the most northerly one of her chapels. It was a Wesleyan chapel. She was a great believer in Wesleyan. In fact, Wesley actually preached in Morpeth 24 times. The Wesleyan Methodists took over the chapel in the beginning of the 19th century, and after 2 goes at refurbishing it and rebuilding it, it became used as a Wesleyan chapel up until more recent times. In the 60s, the Church of England, the parish, purchased the building from the Wesleyan church because they had no longer any use for it. It was being used by the Boys Brigade, and that has continued ever since. And incidentally, the Boys Brigade in Morpeth was the first Boys Brigade company formed in England, and as such is the longest running Boys Brigade company in the country.
And how's the Boys Brigade managing in Morpeth today? Is it still thriving?
It's not thriving, unfortunately. It has in recent times started to become less popular than other uniformed organisations. However, the rector, who's the current captain of the Boys Brigade, is always on the lookout to recruit and perhaps to get the company moving again. It's fair to say that the building is dilapidated, hasn't been maintained. I'm sorry to say it's in a very poor state of repair. The leak roofs, there's evidence of dampness everywhere, and the building generally is failing. Without attention, it will eventually become, well, not putting it mildly, but it will become no longer usable. The parish, in deciding what to do with the building, formed a project team which was led by Robert Bing, who was the treasurer of the parish. And the object was to look at and say, what's the future of the building, what can we do with it, and how could we keep the building in a form that would be a benefit to Morpeth and the community. And that's what we've been working on for the past couple of years. COVID's had a big impact on that and has curtailed some of our activities in terms of consultation. But what we have been able to do is to consult with people from students from the King Edward High School, and also from middle schools and other organisations, the uniformed organisations in Morpeth. And what's quite clear is there is a need for a facility in Morpeth for the youth of Morpeth. So that's the main purpose of the building. It isn't restricted to the youth, of course, but it's the main function of the building. So what we've been working on is how we can refurbish the building. We managed to get funds from the English, the Lottery Fund, Heritage Lottery Fund, and with contributions from David Bourne, ward councillor, from his allocation of cash from the county council, we have been able to afford to do a feasibility study. This has meant employing an architect and a quantity surveyor to fully design the building and give us a price for that work. Now, the design has been informed by these discussions. Clearly, we would like to have had a much wider consultation on it, and this is an opportunity to widen that consultation a bit further, because we have something more concrete to put before people so they can see what can be achieved with this building.
So how much do you think all this is going to cost?
Well, it's quite substantial. The cost just to put the building right in terms of the fabric of the building, the externals, the roof, and all of the building infrastructure is close to $500,000. But overall, to develop the building, including fees and VAT, is $1.5 million.
And how do you think you might find that money?
Well, the Heritage Lottery Fund, which helped to fund the feasibility study, has received the feasibility study and welcomed it. So we've had very positive response from them. Now, normally they would like to see funding on a 50-50 basis, so they want to see matched funding. So our task is to now raise that difference between what the building would cost and what we may be able to achieve through the Heritage Lottery Fund.
And how will you go about doing that? What sort of projects will you, fundraising projects will you have?
Well, obviously we'll be making appeals to a wide range of benefactors who have supported similar schemes in the region and in Morpeth, and that's going to be the main direction. We will be organising some fundraising events, but given the size of this project, it isn't going to be one that we can achieve by just small schemes. It needs to have some major investment and major support.
And what's your timetable, or do you not have one?
Well, COVID's had a big impact on this. We had hoped to have launched the fundraising before now, but this Heritage Open Day gives us the opportunity to put this in front of the public and to start to broadcast what we're trying to achieve with this hall.
And the consultations that you've had so far, particularly with young people, what have they said that they would like that they don't have already?
Well, it is quite interesting. There's generally been a very strong support for a youth centre, somewhere where they can relax, somewhere they can actually work. It is surprising the number of students who don't have access to computers at home. This would be a base where they could have that. And also other facilities that would be perhaps something that is not available in the rest of Morpeth. Youth groups like the Scouts are interested because the hall offers something which perhaps their own buildings don't offer at the moment. The pipe band, for instance, which is practices in the building, they have quite a strong dance form, a group, which are mostly young people, and they would welcome seeing the hall put back into a state which is functional and would support their activity as well. So there's a huge opportunity for the building, and certainly the young people we've spoken to are very keen to see the project develop further.
And what happens next? What's the next stage?
Well, the next way we're raising some funds just to do some more intrusive surveys to see the extent of damage to the roof, to see the extent of structural work which might be needed, and that will then help inform and help us to firm the prices for when we start the actual construction phase. But we can't do that, of course, until we've raised the necessary funds.
So in the best case scenario, when might that be? When would you hope to be able to make a start? Well,
we'll start the fundraising now, and we hope to certainly get the work done on the structural surveys, etc. this year. But optimistically, it's going to be next year before we'll actually see a start on site. Although given the state of the building, we might have to do some more emergency repairs. We've already had to do some on the front of the building, and people may have noticed the scaffold that was there. That was to facilitate repairing to the front, which has been carried out. And also we've installed a fire door at the back of the building. The building itself didn't have any proper fire door, fire escape, but now has. And also that's going to provide access, partly access for disabled members of the public. And the final plan, it'll be a fully accessible building served by a lift to all floors. So we are planning for the future.